Hi, welcome to my little video on understanding Drupal 8 modules for beginners. This is a guide on how to look at any module and quickly figure out what's going on, what can this module do, and how do I use it. We're going to start by looking at these three primary files that you're going to find in most modules: an info.yml, a module file, and a routing.yml file. We're also going to look in the source directory and see what files are there. We're going to look specifically at the Devel module, which is a contributed module, and then we're going to build our own using the Drush 9 generate tool and make a kitchen sink that we can start looking through. So this site might look familiar to you. It is the same site that I used for my field formatter manage display settings video. All I've done is added Devel, and that's a very handy, if you're not familiar with it, it's a very handy tool, adds to your administration menu, can do all sorts of fun stuff, very valuable things, including clearing the cache, which I just did right before I started this video. So here we are in my favorite IDE, Visual Studio Code. Doesn't matter what you use, as long as you can see the files, you are going to be good. So here in my contrib modules, I have the Devel module. Now the first file we're always going to look at, no matter what module we're going to look at, is the same one that Drupal looks at first, and that is your info.yml file. So the very first line tells us what we want to know. This is in fact a module. If we were looking at a theme, it would say theme. What's the name of this module? What's the description for this module? What package does this go under? Package is simply where it appears on our extend list. So core things are in core, core experimental, custom, which is the tool that I built, the archive video player, development, that's where we find Devel, fields, types, migrations, multilingual, web services, almost all that just comes out of the box except for custom. And development got put in when I added Devel. In fact, if I wanted to change that to be something like, I don't know, Frank, hit save, do a refresh over here. We can do a Control F, Frank, and there we go. There's Devel now with its new home. Let's go ahead and change that back. Okay, next up, we actually have this commented out. Because this is a contributed module, Drupal.org actually takes care of this for us, including the timestamp of when this was released. So the next line after what core version is how the configuration is set. And this is a route, and we will get back to that in a little bit. And then the last thing that we would need to worry about is tags. Tags is new to Drupal 8. This is how we have introduced how to organize these things in a larger sense. So if anyone wanted to use this module inside of Drupal or outside of Drupal, they know generally what this module is up to. So this is for the developer. So let's go back and look at this configure devel.amend settings. I know this is a route because anytime we have a word dot another word with underscores, that is typically a route it's referring to. So let's go ahead and look at our routing.yml file. The routing.yml file tells us, well, the routes. A route is a path and what happens when you hit that path. In this case, we have this path admin config development devel, which if I go and just add that to the end of my URL for my site, I end up in Devel settings, just like it thought I would. Now, how is it making what I'm seeing on the screen? This is in fact a giant form. No, we just have the basic way it came. So this is being pulled from a form, and that title is Devel settings, as we can see right there. So that permissions tab, this permissions tag, this is where you find our permissions set in our permissions list. So what it specifically is looking for, administrator configuration. Go ahead and find that. And there we go. And our administrators, of course, have that. All right, so what is going on with this form? Well, the good news is we can actually go and look at this form. We know that the path here is Drupal Devel form settings form. And if we look at our hierarchy here, we see Devel, and there's nothing called form. That's because Drupal uses PSR4 standard. So we know that a form is going to be something inside of source. So we can go look at our form, and specific one we're looking at is our settings form. There we go. And here we go. So it's config form base, Devel dumper plugin manager interface, which I don't actually know what that does. And a bunch of other things. So we can start digging through the code here, see how these menus are put together, how it's storing things. and start understanding, like, how is this form actually being created? So there we go, build form. Uh, Type checkbox display. Yes, this starts matching exactly what we see on the screen under our settings. So display $page array, display $page array. Yes, there's the string. And here's exactly what each thing does. So let's jump out of settings form. That's getting pretty deep pretty quick. But know that we can do this for everything that's got a path. So here we go, Devel menu reset. Let's go see what that does. So this is the same as if I was getting it from this path. And you can see there we have a destination added on because we're in Drupal 8. But that's the base route that it's built from. So you can quickly see that with anything that has routes, you can go to the path and then go tear apart the controller or the form and see, well, what is it actually doing? So this is just a quick way, if you're starting fresh, to see, well, how does this work on those routes? The other thing that we need to look at for any module we look at is the .module file. That module file is the file that gets fired off every time the module gets loaded. So every time a page gets loaded, Devel actually implements these hooks. And here we have a help hook, uh, the large case statement inside. And here we have another hook, entity type alter, implement entity operation. And of course, with all of these hooks, we can simply jump out to Google or Drupal.org and look it up. Say, oh, here we go. Here's the actual documentation for how this works. All right, so those are the three files that we're always going to start looking at. Everything else is in support of that structure, that it's either being invoked from our module dot module file. It is defined on a path set out by the routing.yml. And then the highest level information that we can always start with, that will always be guaranteed to be there, is devel.info.yml. So we're not going to look any further than that, but that should help you get started if you're brand new to looking at all this. But real quick, let's build an example module. So I'm going to close down those windows since we're done looking at the Devel module for now. Close that. And I'm going to bring up my terminal. And I'm going to run fin drush. Because I'm using Docksal, I have to run fin in front of drush and generate. Full screen. And generate, of course, generates whatever I tell it to do. YAML, themes, tests, services, plugins, modules, forms, Drush itself, and some global things. But what we're interested in is a module. Let's go ahead and just create a standard module. So just copy paste that, and then Drush generate module standard. Now this is going to ask me a series of questions. The module name. So we're going to call it example today. And that looks like a good machine name to me. And a module description is example kitchen sink. Maybe we should have called it kitchen sink. That's all right. And instead of putting in package custom, let's put it in package examples. Dependencies. Let's go ahead and make this dependent on the field, the text, and the file modules. Would you like to create an install file? Yes, I would. Let's just answer yes to all of these things. We'll create a libraries.yml, we'll create a permissions.yml, we'll create an event subscriber, create a block plugin, we'll create a controller, we'll create a settings form, and there we go. We have now created in our custom an examples today that has an info.yml. Go ahead and close my terminal there. So example today, it is a module. It is example kitchen sink. Now you might notice, hey, wasn't type and name flipped in the other one? It is. It doesn't really matter what order they're in as long as they're all in the info.yml. Drupal will just pick it up based on the key value pair here. There in my description, package, core, and my dependencies. Now you might notice I don't have a tags in here. That's okay. I'm probably not going to release my example, so I'm not going to be too worried about it actually getting out into the wild and people finding it. So that's cool. So the next thing we're going to look at is the routing that got set up for us. Even with this very simple module that was generated for us, We already have a couple paths that should work, assuming we enable the module. So let's go ahead and enable the module real quick, which we can find under example. There it is, just like expected. We'll go ahead and enable that. And now we can go to this path. Here it is, it works. And if we go look at the controller for that page, which is in our example today, controller, which we remember is in source, and there it is, we can see that in fact it returns, it works. If we return it to hi mom and refresh the page, it should say hi mom, and it does. Okay, so now we can start putting our logic in there. Let's go back and look at the route example again. See, all right, well, we have an admin screen for this. So let's go look at what the admin screen was built to do. All right, so we will say this is an example, save the configuration, and the value is not correct. Well, let's go take a look at what I was expecting me to do actually. Drupal example today form. So this is a form in our size of our source folder. And there's the settings form itself. And here we go, public function, build form. And does it do anything with that form? Ooh, it wants me to say example exactly. So let's go do that and see what happens. All right, it has sent a request. And what did it actually do? So it has saved that in the config, which we can actually go look at if we go and look at our configuration. And we go look at our configuration synchronization. And we're going to do an export of a single item, our example today.settings. And there it is. Example is example. And that's what we expect this to do. So there's a lot more you can look at in here. You see that we did, in fact, make an event subscriber. So if we're trying to understand event subscribers, it's a good way to do that. If you're trying to understand how blocks work, well, we just built a block for this as well that we can just put this block anywhere we want, and it will just say it works. We can change that as we like. And finally, let's look at the module file for this. Now, there's nothing in here. Every time Drupal loads, it would pull in whatever hooks we put in here. We're not going to implement any hooks today, just to see this is an example of, well, where they would go. You can also see I got a permissions file, a libraries file. We're not going to dig into this stuff today. This was just a quick intro to look at info.yml, our .module file, routing.yml, and to see out of those three files, and those three files alone, we can pretty much tell what a module is doing. We can tell in the .module file what it's doing every time, and the routing, we can tell what paths cause what controllers and forms to be invoked. And those are always going to be located under the source folder because we are using PSR4 as the standard. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. Tell your friends, like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Thank you.